The tragic beast of Outlander, the Moorwen, is going to be going up against Jurassic Park's mightiest, and we're actually going to see whether or not the Moorwen can actually thrive on Jurassic Park. Now, this will include both Site A and Site B, okay? Both Isla Sorna and Isla Nublar. So let's begin. Let's start off with the Morrowind description, right? The Morrowind size is pretty much unknown, but it's a very big predator. It's a carnivore, and we know this because it's really willing to eat anything except its own kind. It has a bioluminescent glow that the writer, or at least the producer of the series, describes as somewhat similar to cuttlefish and other deep sea creatures. It's meant to lure its prey in close and then hook it with its tail. Its durability is actually pretty impressive here. It's this Morrowind from Outlander was one of the few species that actually survived the first wave, which was actually a genocidal bomb. And those who were still left were actually just hunted down to extinction. And this Morrowind, which actually went subterranean, actually lived to pretty much fight another day because after the first wave, it just went underground. This means the Moorwen can actually survive a nuclear bomb and be unfazed by it. The Moorwen can only be penetrated by alien metals, and judging by its size and its mass in general, it should be around the same size as the JP3 Ankylosaurus, which is actually much bigger than a regular Ankylosaurus and much bigger than Bumpy, due to the fact that it lives with predators like the Spinosaurus, which cause it to evolve and become much bigger. So with that in mind, can the Moorwen survive on Isla Sorna? Let's begin. So the Isla Sorna here is going to actually be the more accurate depiction of it. We're going to have accurate everything, from the T-Rexes to the Carnotauruses, okay? So everything here is going to be basically based off the actual representation of Jurassic Park, including the novels. So, the Moorwen is just going to arrive. Let's say the engine just drops the cage off at the coast, and once it opens, the Moorwen bolts into the woods, ready to establish itself as a dominant predator. So let's talk about it, right? What things possess a threat to the Moorwen, all right? So obviously, for starters, the Carnotauruses are not a problem at all. They're smaller than the Moorwen, and they mainly specialize in hunting smaller creatures. So these Carnotauruses are really just not as big as a threat to the Moorwen at all. As a matter of fact, the Moorwen would probably view them as prey and probably out camouflage them as well, using nighttime, maybe even some of the daytime to its advantage. And the Moorwen is also very aquatic, so it's able to ambush its prey from the water as well. This would also mean that the the Jurassic Park 2 or the Lost World tiger-striped raptors are also not a threat to it. I mean, they're smaller, and they're basically the same size as a human. And we know the Moorwen can literally pick up humans in its hands. The Moorwen may also be a climber as well, and considering how big the trees are in Isla Sorna, it may find a suitable tree that it could use for its own, territory. And this means that the raptors are actually going to stay clear of the Moorwen, or they're going to be on the menu. Considering the Moorwen doesn't have I would have to say really any worries about eating any creature except its own kind, maybe. I would have to say the Moorwen is going to turn any other creature that it deems a threat or a prey item into any meal it wants. Everything on the island is basically on the menu at this point, okay? So what would the Moorwen do? How would the Moorwen hunt? Well, the Moorwen would mainly use the cover at night like it did in Outlander, finding a safe haven, a safe place it could access both via water and land, and would use that as its main resting or main territory, right? This means it would probably drag kills back to its home base to make sure that it was, properly saved and storaged. It would mark its territory and then proceed to go out and kill any herbivore in the area, For example, it'll hunt Corythosauruses. I do think it may actually prefer, prey that it can actually handle. But let's say it starts off with something like a raptor or a Carnotaurus, right? So this means that the Moorwen would basically use the cover of night and use its bioluminescent glow to lure in its prey. Once its prey is close enough, it'll then pounce upon it. It's very possible it could hunt like pretty much like a crocodile or a Deinosuchus, Purosaurus, or Sarcosuchus, waiting for its prey to come close enough, anything that's drinking, and then bam, launch at it and take it down. But what if it runs into another carnivore? What if it runs into something like the Spinosaurus? Now, while I do think the Spinosaurus may slightly be stronger than it, we do have to remember the Morrowind was able to tear apart a city in one night. It didn't even, daytime didn't arrive when it actually did. And this was an alien city with that same alien metal that could penetrate it. So this will put it in the nuclear level category, or at least the city level category. Okay. So this Morrowind would be able to dog walk just about anything on the island that comes its way, even the JP3 Spinosaurus. If the Spinosaurus does try to attack it, I do think the Moorwen would just outmaneuver it and then proceed to use its tail to slash at its tendons. Considering the Moorwen is actually more keen on striking vital points with its tail, it would probably strike at the legs or strike at any vital organs, any vital points such as nerves in the legs and tendons of the Spinosaurus, causing it to go down. It'll then proceed to pretty much turn the Spinosaurus into a meal. It wouldn't be able to drag it back home, but it will be able to strip off chunks of meat and may even stay at the Spinosaurus kill for a couple of days just to feed on it. We also need to talk about the Moorwen's reproduction, and it seems that the Moorwen may either reproduce sexually or asexually. This will help it in the long run, especially against carnivores like the Tyrannosaurs, who are actually the more widespread creatures on the island. We know that Big Edie and Little Edie were there on the island, and that Little Edie was able to reproduce, Big Edie was able to reproduce and create Little Edie. We also know Buck and Doe are both male and female specimens, and they have produced actually several young over the years, with Junior being one of their most successful, apparently. So we know for a fact that these tyrannosaurs are capable of breeding, but why is this important for the Moorwen? Well, if the Moorwen does reproduce asexually, it's very possible that the Moorwen may actually start collecting any food it could get its hands on. This may include a parasaur or two, maybe a couple raptors, collecting a bunch of kills like it did in the movie to feed its offspring. And considering the fact that it may have been possibly, been able to build itself up, or maybe build up enough bioenergy to be able to reproduce in an environment like Isla Sorna, I do believe it has enough bioenergy to reproduce. Considering the creatures it's eating here would provide a much more stable food source than the humans in Outlander. It leads me to believe that the Moorwen was definitely going to be able to reproduce more due to possibly the biomass of creatures. We don't know how the Moorwens reproduced on their home planet. It's very possible they both had maybe both forms of reproduction, both sexually and asexually. Some creatures have it, and some creatures, can do both. Some creatures can just reproduce asexually, and some people can reproduce, sexually. So the Moorwen itself, being a very capable predator and a very good parent as well, would rear its young pretty much like, Buck and Doe did. This means that a Moorwen species would be flourishing, and they would basically be the phantoms of the night, if you will. Nothing would really be safe once these guys are on the hunt. If they choose to take on a pack of raptors, those pack of raptors are going to die. If they choose to take out a herd of Parasaurolophus, that herd of Parasaurolophus is going to go. However, I do think they would definitely, rule the island. If not, they would be in competition with Rexes for the top of the food chain, into which eventually the Moorwens will win out. But let's talk about Isla Nublar, right? Let's talk about everyone's favorite campaign, the original, the OG Jurassic Park, right? Now let's get one thread out the way. The mosasaur is not going to be a factor here. I'm sorry for all you mosasaur fans, but in all honesty, why would the mosasaur be a factor? The Morrowind isn't going to go into a water area that's pretty much kind of obvious there's something giant in there. You have to remember the Moorwen is as intelligent as we are. If not, it could have been slightly smarter. Speaking of smart carnivores, I do think the Indominus Rex is definitely a problem. You see, if the Moorwen is going to just arrive the same way I said for Isla Sorna, dropped in the box and just let loose on a out of control Isla Nublar, right? With the Indominus Rex going around about to kill everything, I just don't see any reason why it wouldn't try to go after the Morrowind, okay? And it's very possible that the Indominus Rex will counter the Morrowind at night rather than the day, considering Morrowinds are very well hidden during the daytime and it was very hard to find it. The Morrowind would only be found in the cover at night, and this means disaster for the Indominus Rex. The Morrowind is just too quick, too agile, too aggressive. It'll just simply outmaneuver the Indominus Rex at every turn. The Indominus Rex won't be able to get a lock on it, and slowly the Morrowind will be able to wear it down. And actually, I didn't mention this before, but the Morrowind actually has bone-crushing jaws. We see this as it's able to literally crunch on a horse's spine and being able to pretty much snap humans in half. Even straight up rip humans in half with its jaws. So we know for a fact that this Morrowind is literally no joke. So it's very possible that the Morrowind would be able to simply just thrive on Isla Nublar, being able to kill the Indominus Rex and being able to kill the Scorpius Rex as well. I do think during Cramp Cretaceous, we're going to say the kids survived via plot armor. The Scorpius Rex would have been dealt with by the Morrowind almost immediately. Any time of night, it would have been way too attracted to the Morrowind's bioluminescent glow, and it would have tried to attack it out of nowhere. The Scorpius Rex is not even an intelligent carnivore either, so that means it's in big trouble when facing against a Morrowind, who is far more intelligent, far more skilled, and far more dangerous. The only competition it would have is Rexy, but Rexy would be outnumbered by the numerous Morrowind that could possibly be produced from consuming the biomass on the island. Other dinosaurs like the Metriacanthosaurus, the Baryonyxes, and the Monolophosaurus would eventually be, have defined their way through the food chain or go extinct. And we do know some of the predators on the island went extinct here. But at the end of the day here, the Morrowind is actually going to be known as the Black Phantom of the entire island. This is due to its skill, its speed, its viciousness, and its overall cunning intelligence. Plus, combined with its whip-like tail and its bone-crushing jaws, the Morrowind would cement itself as the apex predator of Jurassic Park for all time. Let me know what you guys think down below. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.